Everybody, happy Monday. We are zigzagging all around town today, but we got some good windshield time. And I want to do this as a follow-up video to yesterday's video, which I talked a lot about how, updates, repairs, improvements to your home, how they add value, but maybe not to the extent reconnected. So they add value, but maybe not to the extent that people think that they add value is. Again, quick example of, Steven, I just put a new roof on my house. I spent $16,000 on a new roof. My house is worth $16,000 more because I've made that improvement. No, your house is supposed to have a good working roof that does not have any issues. Now, is it worth a little bit more? Sure. It's worth a little bit more with a new roof than a 30-year-old roof. But if a 30-year-old roof is on there and it doesn't have any issues, it doesn't mean that the house is worth less minus of what a new roof would cost. So anyways, let's talk about this video, some common things that sellers do to their home that I'm just going to say basically add little to no value. And these are some hard conversations that I have with sellers, right? It's not all roses and unicorns. When you talk to sellers, especially after somebody, had spent 5, 10, 15, 20, plus thousands of dollars on this improvement or something they've been sold to by a salesman, thinking that they're going to be able to eventually get this money back. So I'm going to talk about a few things and then explain why. I think that's the most important thing versus me just yapping at you, is explaining why. As always, 10 different realtors may give you 10 different opinions, but I'm going to give you my opinion. So, really no particular order. I don't have notes. I probably should have wrote some of this down because I'll probably forget some of them, but I'm going to name a lot of them, right? Number one that I see all too often is structure repairs that come with a warranty. Oh, Steven, I spent $15,000 getting our structural repair issue with that large crack all done, right? I got all these piers and it's a lifetime guarantee and lifetime warranty, so that makes my foundation, in the best condition possible. Wrong. For one, if you know me, I think those warranties are a joke. I think almost all warranties are a joke, not just the foundation part of them, but in anything, right? Warranties on your damn TV, I think it's a joke. But your foundation is supposed to be in good working condition. An appraiser does not care that you spent $15,000, $30,000, $50,000 on getting your foundation corrected. It was supposed to be in good working condition. It was not supposed to have an issue. So therefore, the appraisers are going to give you more money now because you have this fancy warranty. My gosh, I'm trying to get over here, my guy. It's your fault. So that's another one, right? And that goes right along with crawl space. I've had 2 sellers recently, and I feel sorry for them. And again, I wasn't there, but right, these crawl space foundation salespeople, they come out, they use fear tactics. I've exposed it a lot in a lot of my videos. They literally scare people to death, especially out-of-state people that are not familiar with moisture, that are not familiar with mold, that are not familiar with wetness in crawl spaces or in basements. So what they do is they go in and they sell them on encapsulation with this dehumidifier, right? And I understand it, right? There's nothing wrong with it. Sure, it is an improvement, and man, it looks nice. It feels nice. You can put it storage. You can put your Christmas decorations and all that down there. Not worried about them getting wet and all this. And man, that dehumidifier is fancy and nice. But I go ahead and tell you guys, that stuff, you are not getting that return out. Nobody's going to poke their head in your crawl space. Well, I wasn't going to buy the house, but now that I see this crawl space, all dry locked with a dehumidifier, I'm really going to buy it now. Or man, yeah, an appraiser's not going to poke their head in there. Wow, that's actually a $7,000 dehumidifier. Let me go ahead and give them $7,000 more value of their home. No, your crawl space is not supposed to have an issue anyways. Usually, your crawl space has an issue because your gutters or the terrain around your house is pushing water down into your foundation, which then it seeps through, it gets to the block, it gets into your crawl space, gets into your basement. So usually, with just some proper grading and pushing the gutters away 3 to 5 feet away from the house, usually you're not going to have issues in your basement or crawl space. So therefore, it didn't need to happen. Right? You had an issue, you had to pay to solve the issue. You didn't pay to initially add value to your home. again, this has been recent. I've had some conversation with sellers, and they don't like it. But I'm not going to lie to them. It doesn't add value. I've never worked with a buyer where they was like, yeah, I'm not buying anything unless it's encapsulated, or I wasn't going to buy it. Now that I see it's encapsulated, I'm going to buy it. That is not a determining factor on an offer, more or less money at all. If anything, it's a sign that maybe there was a former issue there, and you're like, good gosh, what's going on underneath it? It's a little bit scary. That's another one, though, that I see all the time. And again, those are sales reps coming out. When you call these foundation companies on the billboards and you want to come out and hey, I need to, I want to see if there's something going on. Those guys are not coming out to let you know, hey, actually, you're in good shape. No, they're going out there to scare you. They're going out there to sell. That is a sales rep. All those guys are marked against their close ratio. They know all that stuff. It's all data driven through marketing and advertising and analytics and all that stuff. That is a sales rep coming to your home. That is not a structural engineer coming to your home. So moving on. So we talked about that. Another thing kind of pops up just because it's happened to me, especially in one of my rentals, is ductwork. Right? So ductwork's supposed to be in good working condition. Just because you just had it all replaced and you put this fancy system in for your ductwork to have free and clear air and whatever kind of terminology they want to use that's fancy of a word I can't spell, and it gives just better air quality. Nobody's giving you more money for it. Nobody cares. What they care about is the ducts being in good working condition. As long as they're in good working condition, nobody's going to negotiate you to update your ductwork. Nobody's going to come in and say, wow, it's all new ductwork. It's a good thing, don't get me wrong, but I've had to replace it in a rental property because the field mites got in my dang ductwork. First experience for me, and they ate through it, and I guess started having babies and all kinds of stuff in there. It's a whole mess. We had to replace our ductwork there, but nobody's giving me more money because I had to replace ductwork. Now that goes along with plumbing. Right, so old houses often have cast iron plumbing. This is one of the hardest things to negotiate on either side, really, buyer or seller, right? As a buyer, your inspector is going to flag it. Now, your appraiser's not, unless there's like obvious leaks and it's an issue, they can flag it. But if it's in good working condition, appraiser's not going to flag it for any loan. An inspector's going to flag it. They're going to say, hey, this is not best practices. Of course it's not best practices in 2024, but they're going to say these are prone to corrosion. Yes, they are. Is it corroded at the time? If it is, sure. At that point, we need to look in, kind of figure out a solution, problem to solve it. But if it's in good working conditions, no issue. It's a hard thing to negotiate because it's going to freak a buyer out. They don't want cast iron. Well, neither do the seller, but the seller's never had a problem. Why would the seller replace something that they never had a problem with, right? And as a buyer, it's really tough to negotiate that in the contract. Oh, Steven, it had cast iron. We moved in it. We spent $12,000 to update our plumbing to PEX. Great. Well, your plumbing was supposed to be in good working condition anyways. There was supposed to be no issue with your plumbing. It doesn't necessarily matter what it's made out of. You spent more money. Are you getting $12,000 now as value to your house because you've updated the plumbing to PEX or PVC or from the cast iron? No, you're not. That is an improvement. Now, are you less likely to have issues down the road and pay for repairs and all that stuff? Yes. So does it make sense for people that has the old cast iron plumbing? Potentially, but it's very expensive because plumbers don't want to do it because that stuff's heavy and annoying to deal with. Yeah. So that's another one. Let me think of offhand. Paint. I hear this all too often. Oh, Steven, I've got my house is fresh paint on the outside or the inside. I've painted everything. That's no value. I mean, nobody's giving you more or less money. Now, could a buyer be more likely to put an offer in because they don't have to paint? Potentially, right? They get more likely to put an offer in, but it doesn't add value. Appraisers just go in there, well, it's got new paint on it. Let me go ahead and jack up that value. It doesn't add value. But again, certain price points, it's going to be expected for there to be no paint issues. Such as, again, under $200,000, not really expected. $800,000 house, yeah, we don't need to have flaking, chipping paint everywhere. We got to have that touched up, right? Because again, what the buyer's expectation is. But don't care what you pay the painter. Nobody cares what brand of paint you used. Nobody's going to be like, oh, I used the most expensive paint over the cheap stuff. I mean, it doesn't add value, right? It doesn't add value. So that was another one. Obviously upgrades, right? Hey, Steven, that's, and I want to say upgrades, right? Let's just say you had an insert, right? You had a fiberglass insert in there, and let's just say it was the Mama and Papa's blue, right? I kind of call it blue-green, right? You see those colors all the time in old homes. Oh, well, I put a new insert in there. It's supposed to be in good working condition. It maybe was in good working condition just because the colors changed, just because it's newer, or just because you had, what's the company, Bath Fitter come in. Oh, I had Bath Fitter come in and put this $5,000, layer over here and put it in here. So now, no, it was supposed to be in good working condition. It was supposed to be a shower tub combo, right? You didn't tile it. You didn't add marble. Right now, if you do certain things like that, sure, there's a value in getting there, but not if you just replaced a fiberglass with a fiberglass. It's the same. Just because it's newer doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get you that value. Insulation. Oftentimes, old houses, we see it come back. Hey, insulation is not recommended. It's recommended to be, I don't know, well, I'm just going to say 12 inches, and it's only 8 inches, right? Well, seller's going to be like, well, this home's been here for 80 years. It's probably fine, and it probably is. But just because it's not how they would build it today, you can't go up in there and replace your insulation for all new blown-in insulation for $15,000. Say, well, Steven, I just put blown-in insulation up there for $15,000. My house is worth more. It doesn't work like that. The house is supposed to have good insulation in it. Just so happens you upgraded the insulation. Doesn't mean somebody's giving you more or less money for it. Doesn't necessarily appraise. Whew. So there's a handful of stuff, and I'm sure I forget stuff like, we can get into flooring. Just because you have carpet, you replaced it. Oh, Steve, I put brand new carpet in here. We had carpet before. Just because you replace it with new carpet doesn't add value. You're supposed to have carpet that was in good working condition anyways. So these are just some things that you got to think of right now. I think there's definitely a fine line of how long you're going to be in the home. Does it make sense, right? Does it make sense to paint things? Because for your visual, absolutely, right? If it's for something for your personal self, it's going to help you and be something mental to you that's going to make you happier, do it. Especially if you're not going to be in the home long term, do it. But if you're looking to do things to say, oh, well, this is a smart investment. If I need to sell it, I'll get my money back out of it. You need to have a conversation that, hopefully with me, if you're watching this, I'm gladly to have that conversation with you, but at least with somebody else that is not selling you the product, because again, they're selling you the product. I know the example I used yesterday, right? You have a Renewal by Anderson come out, and they give you a quote for $40,000 of windows, and you have Joe Schmo window company come out, basically the same exact window essentially as far as what the specs are, and they're half the price or a third of the price. Nobody cares that it's Renewal by Anderson. Nobody cares for the brand. And I'm just telling you, from doing over 500 transactions, tons on the buyer side, tons on the seller side, seeing everything, nobody wants to be like, oh, yeah, those aren't Renewal by Anderson windows, so I'm definitely not giving them $500,000 of this house, all from $480. Nobody says that. They say, oh, wow, look at that. It's a brand new window. Well, that's nice. I don't have to worry about windows, for 20, 30, 40 years, whatever it may be. But they don't care about the brand. All they care is the look of it. Same thing with the roof and stuff. Maybe there's an argument. What are we doing, people? Maybe there's an argument for that 50-year shingle. But again, I go ahead and tell you, from owning an insurance company now, the second that 50-year shingle gets over 15 years, your insurance company don't give a crap if that's 50-year shingle. What they care about is it's probably going to be replaced soon. Just because, again, law of averages, probably going to be a storm come by sooner than later, right? And they're going to have to replace that. It's kind of what they're looking at. But that's why, for me, right, time I get a roof, right, I'm probably your typical, 25, 30-year shingle. Not getting anything super fancy because they're going to replace it probably in 15, 20 years anyways. Sooner than probably the expected lifetime. But yeah, went on a little rant there. I probably should have taken some notes because I know I've forgotten some items, but those are a lot of the items that I see. People doing work to the home, that stuff was supposed to be in good working condition, but it wasn't, so they've made an improvement, or grading around the home. Stephen, I've done one that just popped in my head. I've dug French drains, right? And I've pushed the water super far away from my house. Well, your water wasn't supposed to have getting water in it anyways. Just because you spent, $5,000 on getting French drains and bringing in rock and digging ditches on your driveway so it doesn't wash out, it doesn't add value to your home. So even just thinking a little bit, thought of some more stuff. This thing, should you do it? Yes, right? Because it's probably going to cost you more long term you being there and repairs to your driveway or repairs from the water damage. So yes, go ahead and do that, but you're not getting your money back. It is not considered like an improvement, really, that an appraiser is going to be like, oh wow, they just dug 2 new ditches right here, let me go ahead and give them more money. Now, something, if you went from a gravel driveway to a paved driveway, yes, you're adding value to your home there. But as always, questions, feel free to holler. See you.